It's fine. No one in here at the moment. The police! Got it. Stay where you are. Stay where you are!
Suspicion of murder against Jonathan Cullen and Lars Cullen.
Yeah, okay. That's what he's.
Right, okay.
Yep, okay. Obviously, I'll
Where about
say,
your
a little bit more complicated.
The quiet town of Chelmsford, Essex basked in the golden light of an unremarkable September afternoon when the first official cracks appeared in Virginia McCullough's carefully constructed lies. For months, the 32-year-old had maintained the illusion that her elderly parents were merely away on extended holiday, a fiction she supported with disturbingly calm assurances to neighbors and increasingly erratic behavior that included her bizarre fake pregnancy, a shifting prosthetic belly she adjusted in supermarket aisles while casually discussing due dates. Behind the McCullough's lace curtains, however, a nightmare was unfolding. When Essex police officers pushed past Virginia's protests for a welfare check, they were met with a stench so visceral it made one veteran constable gag, the unmistakable odor of human decomposition that no amount of air freshener could mask. What began as routine procedure rapidly escalated into one of Britain's most disturbing domestic homicide cases as detectives discovered 70-year-old John McCullough's partially mummified remains beneath a mouldering blanket fort in the living room, his diabetic body showing signs of deliberate insulin deprivation. Upstairs, officers recalled upon finding 71-year-old Lois McCullough's skeletal frame stuffed inside a bedroom wardrobe, her nightgown fused to parchment-like skin after months of confinement in the airless space. Most chilling of all was Virginia's demeanor, alternately giggling at inappropriate moments and offering disturbingly matter-of-fact explanations about how she'd helped them along when her parents became too much work, her eyes devoid of any recognizable human remorse. Forensic analysis would later reveal John had languished for weeks in his own waste before dying, while Lois's fingernail grooves in the wardrobe door testified to a frantic, starving struggle no one heard. The crime scene spoke of prolonged torture rather than impulsive violence, empty pill bottles carefully arranged on a dresser, soiled adult diapers stacked with bizarre precision, and, most puzzling, a fully set dining table with 3 places, as if Virginia had been taking meals with corpses. Neighbors' retrospective accounts painted an even more disturbing picture of the months preceding discovery, Virginia hosting a surreal baby shower while decomposition fluid seeped through the ceiling below, her daily routines continuing uninterrupted as she tended the garden just feet from where her father's body lay rotting. Financial records showed she'd siphoned £85,000 from her parents' accounts, spending lavishly on designer clothes and the very pregnancy prosthetics that had briefly made her the center of sympathetic attention. As investigators peeled back layer after layer of deception, a terrifying profile emerged, not of a mentally ill woman overwhelmed by caregiving, but of a calculating predator who'd turned the family home into a private torture chamber where she played both jailer and executioner to the people who'd given her life. The McCullough case exploded into national infamy when forensic psychologists revealed Virginia had kept detailed journals documenting her parents' decline, not as remorseful chronicles, but as clinical observations that read like lab notes. Day 17, father's breathing more irregular, mother refusing meals, will increase sedatives, read one typical entry, its dispassionate tone mirroring Virginia's flat affect during police interviews. Prosecutors built an airtight case showing how she'd systematically isolated John and Lois years before their deaths, intercepting mail, disabling their phone, and turning away visitors with increasingly elaborate excuses. She didn't snap, she conducted a symphony of abuse, remarked Detective Chief Inspector Sarah Hargreaves, pointing to evidence that Virginia had practiced withholding medication during previous illnesses she induced in her parents. The fake pregnancy emerged as perhaps her most grotesque manipulation, a months-long performance involving purchased ultrasound images, fabricated doctor's appointments, and even a gender reveal party where Virginia teared up while cutting into a pink cake, all while her mother's body decomposed upstairs. Crime scene photos presented at trial showed the surreal juxtaposition of Virginia's pristine bedroom, makeup neatly organized, romance novels stacked by color, against the squalid horror just down the hall where maggots writhed in her father's eye sockets. Former classmates came forward with disturbing anecdotes about her childhood fascination with control, recalling how she'd once trapped a cat in a dollhouse for days to see what would happen. The prosecution's psychological expert testified that Virginia exhibited textbook malignant narcissism with sadistic tendencies, citing her enjoyment of making her dementia-addled mother beg for food she'd then withhold. Most damning were the financial trails. Virginia had not only drained her parents' life savings but taken out reverse mortgages on their home, all while collecting their pensions for 8 months post-mortem via forged signatures. The trial took a surreal turn when Virginia fired her defense team and attempted to represent herself, delivering a rambling closing argument that veered between claiming her parents had asked for release and accusing neighbors of framing her. Her complete lack of remorse reached its zenith when she casually corrected the coroner about the timeline of Lois's death. "No, it was Tuesday, not Wednesday. I remember because EastEnders was on," a statement so chilling the courtroom fell utterly silent. The jury took just 3 hours to convict on all counts, with the judge sentencing her to life with a minimum of 25 years, calling the crimes a masterclass in cruelty that redefines filial betrayal. Yet Virginia's most disturbing legacy might be the unanswered questions she left behind. How many of her parents' earlier illnesses had she engineered? Were there other victims during her years working as a caregiver? And most unsettling, had she always been this monstrous, or did the domestic prison she created for her parents somehow forge the monster in the process? 5 years after Virginia McCullough's conviction, the house at 23 Oakwood Drive stands as a grotesque tourist attraction, its boarded windows and condemned notices doing little to deter true crime pilgrims who leave rotting flowers on the doorstep. The current owner, a property developer who purchased it at auction, tells reporters the structure will be demolished after forensic cleaners refuse to enter, citing residual biohazards and something more intangible one technician described as a wrongness in the air. Chelmsford remains permanently altered by the case. Local pharmacies now flag unusual requests for diabetic supplies, while social workers conduct surprise visits to elderly residents who miss appointments. Virginia's sisters have become anti-elder abuse activists, their grief compounded by prison letters where their sibling blithely discusses yoga classes and book club selections without ever acknowledging her crimes. Inside HMP Bronzefield's psychiatric wing, Virginia has become something of a macabre celebrity among inmates, reportedly running a thriving black market business forging legal documents, a twisted echo of the paperwork she falsified to steal her parents' pensions. Psychiatrists monitoring her note she's developed a new fixation on fertility treatments, submitting monthly requests for IVF despite being barred from contact with children. Meanwhile, internet conspiracy theorists have latched onto the case's ambiguities, spinning elaborate tales about secret satanic rituals or government mind control experiments, nonsense that nevertheless thrives in the absence of satisfying explanations for such profound evil. Forensic anthropologists recently made headlines by identifying previously unnoticed bite marks on John McCullough's remains, suggesting Virginia may have engaged in even more extreme behaviors than originally documented. The case's cultural impact endures through a controversial West End play that imagines Lois's final days, while TikTok trends see teens daring each other to touch the McCullough's former mailbox. Perhaps most telling is how the British legal system has changed because of Virginia. New duty to report laws mandate that pharmacists alert authorities when vulnerable patients miss medication pickups, while banks now require in-person verification for pensioners changing account permissions. Yet for all these reforms, the fundamental horror remains. Virginia McCullough wasn't some obvious monster, but the woman who brought scones to neighborhood potlucks, the devoted daughter strangers praised for her patience with aging parents. In this sense, her true legacy may be the end of innocence for communities like Chelmsford, where drawn curtains now inspire unease rather than respect for privacy, and where every cheerful caregiver is viewed with subconscious suspicion. As one neighbor summarized while watching the wrecking ball finally approach the infamous house, "We'll tear it down, but that darkness, it doesn't just vanish. It finds new cracks to hide in." The McCullough case endures as a grim reminder that the most terrifying evils aren't supernatural, but horrifyingly human, the kind that smile at you over the garden fence while unimaginable horrors fester just behind the door. If this story unsettled you, if it made you look twice at your own neighborhood, then let's keep that conversation going. Hit like, subscribe for more true crime stories that stay with you, and share this video to help others understand what lurks in the spaces we think are safe.